Hi there, Andy Ron here with Montana Land Source, and this is the weekly video summary of the Montana Land Report for July 27th, 2022. Lots to talk about in the land market this week. A relatively quiet week in the market with 24 total property updates over the past 7 days. 9 of those are new listings, which is a healthy number of new listings. One property back on the market, which means it's a property that fell out of contract. We don't see very many of those, haven't for a while, and that's a sign of market health, I would say. Buyers following through with their contracts and closing their deals. 6 price changes. As you know, we've seen more price changes here over the last month or so, so we're still seeing that trend of sellers adjusting price to get properties moved in this market. 5 pending sales and 3 sales. Hearing lots of talk and fielding lots of questions about this market. Seems like lots of fear that of course, obviously on the larger context, there's lots going on in terms of possible recession and inflation, and a couple things as all that relates to the Montana land market. The Montana land market certainly is tied strongly to the national economy. We have a lot of buyers from out of state, and I think it's double-edged for the Montana land market when there are negative factors or factors that cause uncertainty in the overall economy. I think we often see an immediate impact on that when there's any kind of uncertainty or lack of confidence in the overall economy. We tend to see an immediate impact on that. Things like buyers who were on the verge of making an offer suddenly pulling back and saying, "Wait a minute, let's wait this out a little bit." Or sometimes even we see an uptick in falling out of contract. Although, as I mentioned earlier, we actually are not seeing that currently in this market. And the flip side of that is that in times of uncertainty, people do tend to gravitate towards tangible assets like land. So I think maybe in the long run and in the broader picture, sometimes economic uncertainty and maybe lack of performance in other investment avenues like the stock market, equities market, that kind of thing drives people to the land market. But certainly we can experience sort of sudden jolts and sudden slowdowns and stuff like that in our market. It's very interesting. It seems like we've rapidly changed from what you could call a seller's market to, I'm not sure we'd call it a buyer's market at this point, or maybe we're not even out of being a seller's market. But certainly a year ago, and starting in mid 2020, we were in an incredibly strong seller's market. You know, things like offers made sight unseen, contingencies waived, offers over ask price, and we've seen an abrupt slowdown in that, which has created a lot of fear and anxiety. It seems like sellers right now are a bit nervous and antsy because they are experiencing this sudden change in sort of energy and motivation from the buyers. Buyers are really slowed down. They're not coming in and making over ask offers, that kind of stuff. And I think rightfully so, sellers who have been on the market through this time period, maybe they've been on the market for 6 months or a year and their property hasn't sold, have some nervousness and anxiety about missing this market. I would not say that we're still in an incredibly strong market. I mean, prices, we're seeing price reductions on list pricings, but as far as sales go, we're still seeing strong sales, strong market. One thing you have to remember, the Montana land market is a highly imperfect market. It's a non-disclosure state, so what is paid for properties and sales is not public information, and even appraisers like myself have only so much access. None of us have access to all the sales at all the time, so it's a highly imperfect market, and a lot of the impression or the view of where the market is at from participants like buyers and sellers is based on incomplete information. So historically, we've had lots of problems in Montana with overinflated ideas of what land was worth, especially on the seller side. We often have quite a number of properties on the market that are overpriced at any one time. I think this last incredibly high market of the last 18 months, 2 years, late 2020, 2021, cleaned that up a bit. We moved a lot of property. Inventory is way down, as you know. But nonetheless, there are properties that are still on the market in Montana that have been on the market for years and haven't sold in this environment. There are lots of sellers which are incredibly strong. A lot of people list their property for what they think it's worth or what it's worth to them. And if the market doesn't match that price, they'll just hang out there and stay out on the market until it does. So we see a lot of that, but certainly motivated sellers right now are a little bit nervous. We're seeing that in price changes, price reductions. One thing I would say to those people who are anxious is just to take a hard look at their existing pricing and make sure that their expectation of value is truly based on real world information and data. Again, there's lots of misconceptions out there. The classic scenario is, rumor has it that the such and such ranch sold for $10 million, down the road. And that equates to a certain dollar per acres that certainly my place is worth that much, but you got to be careful because sometimes that information might be overstated or downright incorrect. Or the other thing is even just listing prices. A such and such ranch will be listed at such a price, and suddenly people come to expect that is market value. We certainly saw over the last 2 years more properties sell at or even above ask price, but nonetheless, across the board, on average, actually in 2022 so far, properties are selling at 91%, according to my data, of list price. That's across the board and on average, and there's certainly exceptions to that. And that number is tighter than years past. A couple years ago, it was more like 80%. So we're certainly seeing it makes sense, in this incredibly hot market we've been experiencing, that properties would sell closer to ask, but it's a misconception that all properties are selling at or above list price. So if your property is on the market, hasn't sold yet, need to take a look closely at your pricing and your marketing. Other than that, I guess in other news, I mentioned 9 new listings, which is healthy. There's one significant new listing in terms of price and size, the Lost Trail on I'm forgetting the name of it. Lost Creek Trail. It's a Bill Bonney listing, 45,000 deeded acres, I believe it is, for $40 million in eastern Montana. Anyway, that's a large, significant sale. At this point, it's the second listing. Sorry, not sale. At this point, it's the second to largest property on the market in Montana. So check that out. You can see maps of it and information about the broker, whatnot, at mtlandsource.com. So that's this week in review. Thank you for everybody for watching and checking out these videos. You can see us on YouTube. We also have Facebook page and LinkedIn page and lots of more information, market stats, whatnot, at mtlandsource.com. Thank you and see you next week.